Ask the Messengers, the program that deals with substance abuse, real people telling real stories. Where there is addiction, there is a chance for recovery. We're trying to help save lives on Ask the Messengers.
Today on Ask the Messengers, we visit Greater Grace Temple and talk with Bishop Charles Ellis and Howard Sturgis as we talk about their program for those who are struggling with substance abuse. They have a ministry that is geared toward helping those who are in addiction right here in the church. And we're going to be sharing success stories.
Well, the way I found my recovery was through God.
First initial step was to talk to God.
Basically, God says once you know better, you're supposed to do better. But I rode with the devil for so long that he made bad look good and feel good.
In my first times of periods of clean time from 1987 to 2005, I just really never had a relationship with God.
I ignored God for a long time because I knew what I was doing was wrong.
I used drugs unsuccessfully for 40 years.
I am now a pastor, so my life has been transformed. I know that there's a lot of different programs out there, but spirituality does play a huge role in your recovery.
I see that I made it through 28 years of addiction because he carried me.
I did not, like I said, know how to be with people, and so I tried to fill voids with stuff.
I'm in the body of Christ, Church of Christ, and here we go, you asked the question, I got baptized February of 2006, and by the grace of God and 12-step program, I go to meetings on a regular basis, and I'm active in my church.
We now go to our interview with Bishop Ellis and Pastor Sturgis. Bishop, thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Thank you for having me, Lester.
All right, appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Would you say that there are people in your congregation who are in the closet with their addictions?
I think there are people in every congregation that are in a closet with their addiction, some kind of addiction. And I think that, and I know we're going to be talking about alcoholism and narcotics and things of that nature, but I believe that everybody is struggling with some kind of addiction. Right. And I don't think that one is any worse than the other. Right. And I think that in order for us to be whole and to be all that God wants us to be, whatever the addiction is, it could be verbal abuse, it could be gambling, it could be just a bad attitude. Right. It could be walking in fear, you know, yes, and that can keep you from your purpose. Yes, I think that all of us need to look ourselves in the mirror and to find those shortcomings and try our best to get help wherever help is available.
By this being such a large church, and you know, and certainly it's a blessing to have a number of people coming, how do you make people feel at home and welcome and open to share what they're going through?
Well, I think that you have to, first of all, maintain and present an atmosphere of confidentiality. I had a secretary who retired maybe a couple years ago, no, in 2015, about 4 years ago, and I haven't replaced her yet. And she was my dad's secretary for 27 years.
Oh, wow.
1975 to 1996, she was his secretary. Yeah. And then she was my secretary up until 2015 when we gave her a big celebration. And I still have her nameplate on her desk in front of my office.
Those some big shoes somebody got to fill there.
And in my mind, I pretend she's still there. Right. You know, people call her, I need an appointment with the bishop. Say, all right, his secretary will get back with you. I say, who's the secretary? He is. 2 days later, I say, receptionist, tell them they can meet with me Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Right. You know, they come in, they still see Sister Yvonne K. Finley's name there on that desk. It's not that she's not replaceable. You know, everybody's replaceable. You know, man, my dad was replaceable, you know, the huge figure he was, you know, but after 96, March 19th, you know, life goes on, you know, and God is still God. You know, I just, you know, I certainly can't be like the White House, you know, that can't be a revolving door, you know, oh, we got the wrong one, let's get another one, or that person don't want to be here, let's get another one. You know, you want to make sure that you take your time with that position, because as you know, as a pastor, that person who sits in front, and that person who people go through to get to you, that's a very important person. That person is privy to a lot of things, you know, and you just have to make sure you have the right one. So I say confidentiality is a must. If you don't have that, I think everything else is a waste of time.
Let's say you have someone in the church. How do you deal with the fact if they come and they're in their addiction? How do you pray for them? How do you help them through their process?
As a pastor and a counselor, I think that you have to have some kind of sensitivity to the balancing act there. I don't ever, as a pastor, want to believe or subscribe to the fact that God cannot heal, whether it's mentally, emotionally, or physically. I want to believe that he is the great and master physician. So with all of the helps that we see in our world, in our society, within our communities, I want to believe that, if God speaks a word, then what is ailing you can, as that woman who had that issue of blood for 12 years, it can be immediately made whole, and you can be immediately delivered from it.
Here's a great question, and we've got preachers and pastors who are watching, and many times as leaders we don't want to expose ourselves and expose our faults. So if a pastor is struggling with an addiction or with issues with substance abuse, where could he go? Where should he go?
That's a question that comes up a lot, and when I think about that, I think about how it all began with a person like Moses, leading probably the first mega church in history. And we see him talking to a God through a burning bush. We see him continuing to communicate with God throughout his ministry of leading the children out of Egypt, across the Red Sea, and then through the wilderness. And I've often wondered, who did Moses counsel with? Who did he talk to? Because you always see him talking to God when he's thinking about killing himself. This is what you think?
You're right.
Just take me up out of here. And somebody else can have this church, you know what I'm saying? And God says, no, I'm going to handle it and put some people that have your spirit in position. Pastors have to be careful because everybody cannot handle our humanity.
Yes, sir.
People like to see us as the voice of God, and people respect us as the voice of God. Yet we're still human, and we still have imperfections, male and female. And I think the pastors have to be real with themselves and know that you have to have accountability partners, and you have to have people that you can talk to. And get yourself healed. Sometimes we're ministering all the time, but we're not being ministered to. So I think we have to be very careful sometimes to be ministered to as well as ministering.
Okay. When we come back, Ask the Messengers, we're going to have more with Bishop Ellis, and he's going to tell more of his story. And then we're also going to have, coming up, someone from his staff who leads up their substance abuse ministry. Don't go anywhere. Ask the Messengers. We'll be right back. We here at Ask the Messengers like to bring you the very best in information and resources. We'd like to thank Wendy Williams for her boldness in letting the world know that she is struggling with an addiction. She also mentioned that she is part of a sober house. We want you to know that sober houses are not just for the financially elite. It's not just for the stars. It is for the everyday person, and there are many here in Metro Detroit. We want you to know that if you are trying to get to the place of sobriety, if you're trying to get through your addiction, these houses are available to you. We want you to know that Ask the Messengers is here to help you to make sure that you find that place of recovery. Welcome back to Ask the Messengers. Lester Lewis here, your host, and I am sitting with Bishop Charles Ellis, and we are having a wonderful conversation, and he is telling us more about what Greater Grace is doing to actively be a part of the substance abuse issues that are going on to help people in their lives. And so, Bishop, we were talking about individuals who were going through. How do you help families whose loved one is in addiction and they're praying for them and they still out there?
I think the first thing you have to do is you have to tell the family members that they being the closest to an individual who's battling addiction probably have to be the most considerate.
Okay.
And sometimes that's very difficult because they have to live that.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're the ones that's getting hit for money. And
Right,
they're the ones that have to balance, do I let you in my house? Do I have to put things up and make things not available?
Right.
But you have to also help them with the sensitivity that, they have to be very careful not to be judgmental. Right. But people know where they are. You don't. My dad always said, I don't need to tell anybody they're going to hell. First of all, I don't know they're going there.
Right.
They know. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows the life they're living. So I don't need to tell you, man, you're gonna bust hell wide open. Man, I ain't gonna bust it wide open, but I am going there. You know what I'm saying? With the life I'm living. I think you have to tell them that they have to be most considerate.
Yes, sir.
And they have to show that love. And I think family members, can win a lot of people that we cannot, with their love, with their concern. Because, I think family is always family. At the end of the day, if I can't trust anybody, if I can't go to anybody, I ought to be able to go to my family, my brother or my sister, my mother or my father, my son or my daughter. They ought to be able or willing to help me. But I think that they need to make sure that they are open to helping. And you need to hold people accountable, but at the end of the day, I don't think you need to have that finger out.
Right.
You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
sir.
Well, I told you, if you had listened to me,
blame
I'm trying to hear that right now.
Right.
Can you just get me about this ditch? How you
right.
get down there? Well, how long you been down there? Can you just reach down here and get me up out of here? So that would be my one of my pieces of advice.
Okay. So now, Alcohol Awareness Month is coming up, April, and during that month, we try to here at Ask the Messengers at least give information about that. Now, let's say if you have someone who is struggling with alcoholism, because it seems like it's getting lost in the opioid epidemic, that there are still people struggling with alcoholism. What would you say to those people who are struggling with alcohol? I
would say that you need to know whether you need help or not. And, Lester, if I can say, Lester, we can be informal here. And you don't have to call me Bishop. Right. I say to Greater Grace Temple that you have to know, and those of us who are here in a snow area and a snow state, we know how to get ourselves out of a stuck situation. Right. There are times when your car is stuck in some snow and, you can rock it, and drive, reverse, drive, reverse, drive, and then you're on out. But then there's some times when, as you're rocking, that wheel is getting deeper in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And now you got to know when you need to call for a tow truck. You know what I'm saying? Or you're going to tear that transmission up.
That's right.
So I said, people need to know, when you can rock yourself out of some stuff. And now if you've been here for 2-3 years,
right.
10 years,
right.
Listen, man, you can't rock yourself out of this. You got to call roadside assistance.
Right.
They got to hook that thing up, and somebody's got to pull you up out of there.
Right. Well, listen, Bishop. And I know you said I can call you Charles, but I want to know, you were a PK, and your dad was a giant in ministry. And I've heard a lot of pastors who, because of the pressures of ministry, they got involved with alcohol and drugs and all the other stuff, but you have not. And how, if you could share with the audience, how did you stay away from those issues?
First of all, we were fearful of our parents, man. You know what I'm saying? The police wasn't even on my radar. You know what I'm saying? My dad and punishment, that was prison for us, man.
Yes,
you ever tried to stay in the house for 2 weeks in the summer?
Yeah.
Summer ain't that long after all.
See, kids now, they don't mind.
You watching people play basketball and outside, run up and down the street, riding bike. You got to stay in and cannot watch TV.
Right.
That's house arrest, man. You know what I'm saying? So that helped us stay on the on the straight and narrow. But listen, there are times we tried stuff. I was over my neighbor's house next door, maybe 12 years old, maybe 14 years old, trying some Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill. His brother had some stuff, upstairs, man, and I took maybe what was a cap full.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you honest to goodness truth, man, that didn't touch Kool-Aid no kind of way. Man, I'd rather have some grape or orange or strawberry Kool-Aid. I'm like, man, this is the nastiest stuff in the world. And I'm thanking God that I touched that stove and found out it was hot.
There you go.
And didn't get addicted to it. Maybe if I had a glass, it might have been. Thank God it was a little cup. It was a little the top.
That's right. You heard it here first in Ask the Messengers. Bishop had
I am
a
repenting.
cap full of Boone's Farms.
I am coming clean. Okay. But at the end of the day, man, that was it for me. I mean, man, I've never looked at wine or liquor, and that wasn't liquor. That was just, I guess, was it wine? Boone's Farm Strawberry wine. Okay. All right. Well, that was wine. So that was it. And listen, man, yeah, we smoked a cigarette, absolutely. But after you coughed, You want another one? No, man, I don't want another one, man. Right. You kidding me? I gotta go play baseball, man. So thank God, you know, the times I tried those things, you know, it didn't work for me at all, man. Listen, ain't nothing better than Pepsi Cola. I'm telling you, ice cold. Listen, you don't need no ice. You just put it in the freezer.
That's right.
Bring it out when it just had a little ice in it. That's better than any drink I've ever had in my life, man.
So listen, Bishop, if you just had something to say to someone in the community who is struggling and going through, you know, from the man of God and also from the servant of God, what would you say to someone who's struggling?
I would say you never can give up on yourself. You know, in life, there'll be a lot of people that might be with you today, not with you tomorrow, that might want to help you. And then, you know, hey, you're not my brother, you're heavy now, you know, and, you know, don't call me, I'm throwing your number out, you know, erase my number. People will come and go, you know, people will be with you sometimes, not. But if you ever give up on yourself, well, Bishop, I'm not a church person. You don't have to be a church person.
You don't have to be.
Well, Bishop, I'm not saved. Well, okay, none of us were, you know. But Bishop, you know, I've done some horrible things. We all have.
Yes,
but
sir.
you can't give up on yourself. You know, as long as you believe that you can be better and you pray to God, you'll get there. You might not get there as fast as some other people. Don't judge that, you know. Sometimes it's a 2-week journey. Sometimes it's a 2-year journey. But as long as you get there, that's all that matters. So let people give up on you. Let people throw you away. But don't ever give up on yourself.
Now, who do you have here at the church that is involved in leading up your substance abuse and prevention education ministry?
We have a tremendous leader, Pastor Howard Sturgis, and his lovely wife Lisa, and a whole team. And they pretty much head up our substance abuse ministry, and they do a phenomenal job.
All right. We're going to have more conversation with them when we come back, so don't go anywhere. When we come back, and we want to thank the bishop so much for his time, for being here with us. And when we come back, we're going to talk with the leader of the substance abuse prevention ministry here at Greater Grace Temple, and that is going to be Pastor Howard Sturgis. Don't go anywhere. Ask the Messengers. We'll be right back.
Ask the Messengers, the program that deals with substance abuse, real people telling real stories.
My drug of choice started out as crack cocaine and then progressed as I tried other things and eventually became intravenous use of heroin.
Cocaine and crack.
Alcohol, crack, and heroin.
In that 17 years clean, I escalated very high in a position with a company and made 6 figures, and I thought that I could purchase and shop and travel my way to filling that void. And I learned through this process of the relapse between 2005 and 2010 that money cannot buy the things or fill the voids that I felt. And so now I have a very good working relationship with God. I have the joy, the peace, those things that money can't buy. I don't make nearly what I made the first time around, but I certainly feel more rich than I have ever felt.
We're back with Ask the Messengers. I'm Lester Lewis, your host, and I'm here with Pastor Howard Sturgis. Now, how did you find yourself here at Greater Grace and in the position and role you're in now?
I came up to minister to do the cash quarters outreach that they had, and I met my wife. Met a young lady that was my wife. I said, yeah, the Lord told me that you was my wife. She said, well, he didn't tell me. And you know, a year later we got married, and then we were living in Tennessee. The heat, kind of like, she didn't agree with the heat, so we moved to Detroit.
Okay, all right.
One of the profound things, my pastor in Tennessee, we had the 5 homes, we had a lot of people we was attracting, and people was coming to church, and he pulled me in his office and he said, Brother Howard, he said, you're fishing in shallow waters. And I looked, I said, this don't look too shallow because we got all these people. He said, you're fishing in shallow water. The Lord told me to tell you, you got to launch out into the deep. And not knowing, he's talking about Detroit, you know, and we decided to move. God gave us the clearance to move to Detroit, and I submitted a proposal to Bishop to run the now not standing substance abuse ministry. Okay. And on October the 12th, October the 12th, 2012, we launched the ministry.
Okay.
We launched the ministry.
So now, if someone wants to need some help, how would they get in touch with you guys? How would they get to become a part of that substance abuse ministry?
Okay, they can call the church, 313-543-6000, and they can talk to receptionist, and she would actually plug them into me.
Okay.
We have that meeting on Wednesday night. We have that meeting on Wednesday night at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Great meeting. It's a great meeting.
Now, what all is offered here for substance abuse at Greater Grace?
Well, we have, like I say, the preventive meeting that we have. It's a 12-step fellowship. We don't say NA, we don't say AA, because we don't want to turn nobody away. It's a 12-step fellowship. We also have a women's transitional home that's ran by myself, and also we have a men's transitional home that's ran by another pastor in the church. So if they would call the church, and we would do whatever we can to try to hook them up with a treatment center, something like that, and then they can come and once they complete treatment and come to us.
Now, how important do you believe it is that the church be actively involved in helping people with substance abuse issues?
It's very important. I thank God for Bishop Ellis, because he provides us with everything we need to get them here. The buses are available to us. You know, we have drivers. We have. You know, we don't have any money, so we don't pay for that. You know, the church pays for it, you know, so, and provide snacks, and, you know, we don't have a traditional meat and coffee and all that, but we provide snacks and pizza and stuff like that. And it's all provided by, you know, one thing about Bishop, he will, the compassion and the love that he have, he will make sure that meeting go on. They may have other stuff going on in the church, but he says, I know Sturgis has to have his meeting because of certain things.
And I think that's important, because there are people who look at the church and say the church is not doing anything. The church is just concerned about what's going on inside. But you guys are actually reaching out to those who are hurting and pulling them in. And for that, we appreciate what the church is doing. Now, from the very bottom of your heart, if you had one thing that you could say to someone who's out there struggling and going, what would you say to someone from your heart, based on your experiences and what you've been through? Well, how would you say it to help someone?
Well, I had to look within myself and realize that what was going on wasn't normal. It wasn't normal. This was not what God intended for me. This was not was intended for me as a man to be. I had to realize that there was something just like the steps say. I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. I had to realize that I was down, and that I needed help, and that was somebody, that was something that can help me. So that's what I did. I called on to God, and I got up. I got up, and man, I felt like a burden was released. It was released. So I tell anybody, look within yourself. Look within yourself and say, is this normal? Is this normal? And when you realize that it's not normal, then you do something to make a change. And that change, you got to help somebody. Just like somebody, taught you to use drugs, somebody got to teach you how to stay clean. And I realized that it couldn't be me. It had to be somebody else that was able.
And what better place to do it than in the church,
What better place to do it than doing that?
You know, I am reminded there is a wonderful story in the Bible about those 4 friends that carried their friend to Jesus, and they couldn't get to him immediately. So they had to go up on the roof, tear the roof up, drop him down in front of Jesus. And what they were doing is they were bringing him to where the help was.
That's right.
And like you said, we ought to, and Ask the Messengers is just about that. We're trying to help save lives. And that's what those 4 men did. They were part of the process to help him get his life back together. We thank you so much for tuning in to Ask the Messengers. And when we come back next week, we want you to know we're going to come back again with the same message. We're trying to help save lives on Ask the Messengers.